So what I want to do here is tell you a little bit more about the frog organs and show you what they're going to actually look like, so that when we do our frog dissection, you're going to be able to see them and identify them a little more easily. I have this all filled in for you, so you don't really have anything you're going to need to write. We'll just go back and forth, looking at the diagram, looking at the actual organ, talking about what they do. So this is the frog diagram. You know, when you're looking at this, like a frog laying on its back with its abdominal cavity and thoracic cavity opened up so that you could see the organs inside. And so you'll see a lot of these should look familiar, because almost all of them are found in a human. There's a couple that are not, and we'll talk about that. But this is sort of what you'll be seeing. Okay? So let's talk about these one at a time. And I think you guys probably, hopefully, remember most of these organs. First off, the liver. We know that the liver does a couple things. It makes bile, a digestive enzyme, and also it helps filter the blood. If we look, when you're looking inside of the frog, the liver is very easy to find. Okay. So this is a frog. Hold on. And so what you see is the two flaps of skin and muscle that opened up here and pinned down so that you could see the organs inside of the frog. Now the liver is easy because it's the biggest organ in the frog when you open it up. It's this brownish thing. It's actually, there's several sections or lobes of the liver. So this is liver, this is liver, this is liver. The liver is kind of the most obvious thing that you see when you first open up your frog. Okay? Touching this. So this probe is touching the liver. All right. So then we know that an important part of the digestive system, along with the liver, is the gallbladder. So the liver makes the bile, then it sends it to the gallbladder to be stored. To find the gallbladder in the frog, you got to look a little bit, because it's underneath the liver. Like the flaps of the liver are sort of held down. If you lift one of them up with a probe towards the right side, you'll see underneath there a small little, now this one is sort of black. Most of the time they're kind of greenish, okay? And it's a little bubble. Sometimes it's like a deflated bubble. It's like a pea. If you squeezed out the insides of the pea and you just have that kind of shell left, that's exactly what the gallbladder looks like. But it's underneath the liver, okay? Underneath one of the lobes of the liver. The bile duct is not one we're going to have to find, but the bile duct is what carries the bile from the gallbladder into the digestive system. It transports bile. The spleen we didn't really talk about. The spleen's an organ that helps. It's one of the lymphatic organs. It helps to, along with like tonsils and things like that, it helps to recycle blood cells, okay, that are no longer useful. The spleen helps get rid of those. And when we look for this, when we look at the spleen, okay, it's kind of underneath a bunch of the other digestive organs. It's another little round ball sort of organ, and it's sort of in the middle of the frog underneath the digestive organs. That's the spleen. Hard to see. Yeah, it'll be easier once it's in the frog, but I want you to get an idea about what you're going to be looking at. Okay, the esophagus. In the frog, the esophagus is tough. It's not very long. And it's way back behind the heart and some other organs. But we know its job is to connect the mouth of the frog to the stomach. And so this picture I have here in the slides, it's not really an actual picture. It's just showing, oh yeah, from the mouth The esophagus is just the passageway. At the very back of the mouth, there's this passageway. That's the beginning of the esophagus, and then that leads down into the stomach.
So where does the stomach go?
Yeah, that's where food goes. The frog swallows food, goes down.
Where does it stick out of the top?
I don't know. The stomach, we know, is for digesting, breaking down food. Stomach is pretty easy to see. It's on the left side of the frog, and it's this sort of, if you lift up, this is again the liver, lifting up on the frog's left side, it kind of curls around, that's the stomach. Okay? Now, if you followed the stomach up, you'd find it goes in the esophagus up to the frog's mouth. But this here is the stomach. Now, sometimes the stomach will be large, sometimes it'll be small. Kind of depends on how soon your frog had eaten before it died. Sometimes, last year, 2 years ago, one of my groups, they found a frog that had a really large stomach, and so we cut it out and opened it up, and what they found in there was a crayfish. Like you could see all the exoskeleton from a crayfish in there. Sometimes when you open it up, you might find insects in there. We found that before. Sometimes even small little pebbles and stuff that the frog happened to swallow when it was eating. So when you open up the stomach, which you'll do as part of your dissection, you'll be able to see if there's any food in there, and sometimes you can identify what it came from. Again, because in the stomach, the food hasn't fully been digested yet. Okay, so that's the stomach. Now the pancreas in the frog, so again, it makes some digestive enzymes, pancreatic juices, and the pancreas is tough to find in the frog. In fact, we usually don't see it. Okay, it's sort of wedged in between the stomach and the other organs. It's right in here, in sort of the space between the stomach and the small intestine. Small intestine digests and absorbs nutrients. I'll show you that in a second. And the large intestine reabsorbs water. So if we look here, now it's kind of hard to see, but we have the stomach, again, liver, stomach. Then the stomach, if you follow, it gets narrow and it gets into this windy tube. And you can't see too much of here. You can see it, it continues here. That's all small intestine. But if you follow this tube here, all of a sudden right here, it widens out. And it goes from a very thin tube to a wide tube. This part of it is the large intestine. That's the large intestine. If you open that up, you'll see that there's feces inside there, waste, solid waste from the frog. And depending on your frog's diet, there could be a lot in there, could be a little. It just depends on when the frog ate and where it is. Now the cloaca, this is one that's not present in humans. Okay? So in a frog, the cloaca is their body opening. If you remember back to frog reproduction, how's it different from human reproduction? Abby? It's external. The male frog doesn't have any external reproductive organs. Okay? It doesn't need to deposit sperm inside of the female. It just releases sperm into the water. Same thing with the female. She just releases eggs into the water. They don't really have specialized reproductive organs that we would think of that a mammal does. Okay? The body opening of the frog is called the cloaca. And basically, urine comes out through this opening. Feces comes out through this opening. If it's a male, sperm comes out of this opening. If it's female, eggs come out of this opening. So all of those things that are being released from the frog, they all come through this one passageway that's called the cloaca. Mesentery we didn't talk about. This is a membrane, sort of this tissue that kind of keeps everything in place. And when you open up your frog, you'll see like the intestine stuff. It's all held in there with this thin film, this thin membrane, and it holds the organs all in place so that they don't shift around. A lot of what you do when you're dissecting is sort of separating the mesentery from the organs so you can sort of see them better. The heart, obviously, pumps blood. and pumps blood throughout the body. Frog's heart is a 3-chambered heart. Let me go back. The frog's heart is a 3-chambered heart. And so it's right here. So this is all the frog's heart. It has 2 atria and 1 ventricle. What organ is this? What's this? Liver. Stomach. Small intestine. This is the heart. When you look at your frog, just like in humans, a frog has 2 sort of body cavities. We have our what we call abdominal cavity, which is like below your rib cage. It contains all the digestive organs, kidneys and other things. The part above the rib cage is called the thoracic cavity. That contains heart, the lungs, those organs. So they're up a little bit higher in the frog. Sometimes you got to cut a little higher to get and be able to see the heart.
That's kind of small part for a frog.
Yeah, we're a small animal. All right, we have the lungs. The lungs for taking in oxygen, obviously. Frogs breathe through their skin as well as through lungs. The lungs are sort of on each side of the heart. And hopefully I have a picture I can show you that. The kidneys. Kidneys purify the blood. They filter out substances from the blood that are waste products, and they produce urine. So, here's a couple things. So in this frog, the digestive organs have been removed, so you can see better. So what you see this on this side and this side, those are the 2 lungs. This is the heart. Heart, and here's the lung, here's the lung. But lower on, towards the very back of the frog, these red things, way in the back of the frog against its back wall, those are the kidneys. This is a male frog, these are the testes. There's a tiny urinary bladder. We usually don't find it, but it's connected to the kidneys. The female frog has ovaries, if it's a female. And when frogs, I'll show you that picture in a minute, are filled with, if you have a female frog and it has eggs present, there's hundreds and hundreds of them. And they often fill up most of the insides of the female frog. They're mostly filled with eggs. If it's a male, like I just showed you, there's testes, which produce sperm. And then the oviduct. The female frog produces eggs in the ovaries. They move through the oviduct and then out of the body. If you have frog with eggs, okay, this is one without eggs. That's the oviduct. Looks like mashed potatoes. Okay, it lines all around. If there's eggs present, it's going to have lots and lots of eggs. They're black. They have like a black spot on them. The sperm duct, if you have a male frog, it transports sperm from the testes to the cloaca. And the sperm duct is a very, very thin tube. Remember, sperm cells are pretty small. And so the sperm duct, so here's the testes, this tiny little tube. Okay, that is the sperm duct. On this side, you can see this little whitish tube that's going down. That is the sperm duct, really, really small. And then we have fat bodies. Now, do you remember what fat bodies are? We mentioned them when we talked about amphibians. Right?
What if the frog is the hibernation? The fat bodies store food, so the
Yeah. As a frog has lots of food in the spring and summer, it eats a lot of extra calories. It stores that energy in these organs called fat bodies. And then when it's hibernating in the winter and is not eating at all, it lives off that energy. So these fat bodies store energy. Now they're different than in mammals. Mammals have fat as well, but it's a whole layer of fat beneath the skin. Frogs don't have that. They have this organ inside called fat bodies. They're yellowish orange, And if your frog had a good diet and was eating a lot, there will be a lot of them. If they didn't eat very well, there may not be many, but they're just all scattered throughout the frog's abdomen. These little, they look like bananas, I guess. Last couple things. Frogs don't have ears, right? But they do have eardrums. Their eardrum is called the tympanum. It's on the outside of their body, basically, right at their skin level. It looks like a little circle near on each side of the eye. So if you look, here's a frog. Here's the eye. This little area right here, a circular area, that's its eardrum. That's how it hears, okay, through that eardrum. And lastly, the adrenal glands, we know, are near the kidneys, on top of the kidneys, and they produce adrenaline, insulin. Frogs have adrenaline just like other animals do, and the adrenal glands produce that. So, just to review, we have the liver, big brown organ, right in the middle, easy to find. Gallbladder, lift up the liver, look under there, find a little bubble, a little pea, that's the gallbladder. The spleen is also a little round thing, but it's deeper within the frog, in the middle of the frog, a little red ball. Esophagus in the back of the throat. Stomach, easy to find. It's the left side of the frog, looks banana-shaped, this curve. Then it turns into this, which is the small intestine. Pancreas are tucked within the stomach area. Large intestine, follow the small intestine. Once it gets wider, then it's the large intestine. Heart, right in the middle, up high in the frog. 3 chambers. Kidneys, way in the back, red, on each side. Oviduct, windy, mashed potatoes. Or if there's eggs there, they'll be black. Testes, oval organs towards the back. Tiny little tube attached to the testes. That's the sperm duct. Fat bodies. Eardrum, the tympanum. And that's where we stand. So if we think, just like in humans, we eat food in our mouth, goes through our esophagus, travels through the stomach, small intestine, large intestine. Same exact setup in the frog. Through the mouth, esophagus, small intestine, large intestine, out of the body. So it has the exact same organs in the same place. Okay? The liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas, also same function in frogs as they do in humans. Okay? Same thing with the respiratory system and the circulatory. Frogs have 2 lungs right next to the heart. Humans have 2 lungs right next to the heart as well.